guys, welcome back to my channel where today I'm taking a subscriber request. One of my subscribers who goes by Auntie D. Ramey wanted me to do a video about the colors that I don't use in my palettes. So I'm actually going to do this in two different parts because I pulled out about 12 different palettes and I didn't want to make one big long video. So this is video number 1 out of the set, and I'm going to be talking about 6 different palettes and the colors that don't get any or hardly any use. If you'd like to see that, don't go anywhere. If you're new to my channel, hi there, my name is Rachel. I'm a homeschooling stay-at-home mom. I love to play with colorful eyeshadow. I upload about 3 videos a week, all eyeshadow related content, so perhaps you'd like to consider liking and subscribing if you like what you see. Now I will say, Auntie D. Ramey suggested that I talk about the colors that never get used or the ones that I don't use. I tried to do that, but there were actually very few palettes where I don't use one of the shades at all. So this video is going to be more colors that rarely get used, and I was able to find a rarely used color in almost all of my palettes, which is why we're doing it in 2 parts. I'm going to start with the Tinkerbell Sprinkle a Little Magic palette, collaboration between Tinkerbell and ColourPop. This is a really great palette. The quality is awesome. It's awesome. My only qualm with this palette is that these 2 shades are so similar, and those are the 2 that it's very rare that both of them get used. It's either one or the other, because you can use either one with this nice purpley shimmer down here, but you don't really need both because they're so close, especially on my skin tone, that you don't really see a difference in the color. So I would use one of them, but not both. And usually I take Big Magic because that one's a tiny bit darker, a little bit more of a color pigmentation. And so that's the one that I would use for a look. I may use Second Star if I were blending out one of these other tones and I wanted to blend it into my skin and just disappear. So that would be a time when I'd use Second Star, but I almost never use both of them. And generally I prefer Big Magic just because it's a little bit deeper, a little bit more rosy toned. Let's talk about the Blueberry Muffin palette from BH Cosmetics. This is, again, really great quality. This is an amazing palette. It can be a bit, I won't say redundant. There are no redundant shades, but there are some shades that are very close. These blues are close. They have different undertones, but they're about, a medium toned blue. And then some of the shimmers are a little bit too close to each other. I would have preferred a bit more variety within the shimmers, or maybe a light blue or a light purple shimmer. But overall, it's a great palette. You're going to find this to be pretty consistent in a lot of these palettes. The shade that I don't use or rarely use is generally one of the darkest blue or purple shimmers. On my own skin tones, dark blue and purple are very tricky colors because I have blue undertones, and so those colors can make me look kind of weary. And so I tend to avoid them or only put them in a very small part of my eye look. They are rarely the focus of the whole eye. But anyway, within this palette, the shade which gets basically no use is this one here called Stud Muffin. It's a lovely navy blue shimmer. It's a really pretty color, but I don't usually use it. Sometimes Fluffy gets a little bit of use if I'm blending out one of these browns, and Treat might get a little bit of use if I'm blending out one of the blues, but Stud Muffin definitely gets pretty well neglected. I use Baker's Dozen because I use it to deepen an outer corner, but Stud Muffin would be the shade within this palette that probably never gets used. Then we've got the All Amethyst palette from ColourPop. This palette has gotten some very mixed reviews from me because these 3 shades, they're almost duds. They're not bad, but they're not great. And ColourPop overall has pretty good quality. The rest of the palette is great. These 2 mattes right here, this is just a regular matte, this is a matte with shimmer. They are beautiful. They give me such beautiful looks. I'll pop up some pictures of some looks I've done, like highlighting those shades and the shimmers within this palette. So pretty. This is a gorgeous light lilac sort of shade, and then this is a beautiful dusty rose. Really pretty. And then the shimmers are all quite special and unique. I don't have too many palettes in my collection that have this kind of shimmer and these tones, especially these 2 right here. But there are these 3 shades in the bottom, this little trio, that just aren't that good. They're just not exciting. I find that all 3 of them look pretty much the same on my eyes. They all blend okay, but they blend and they build okay, but they're not bringing any value to the look. It's just a base color. And it's not even a super attractive base color. None of these shades in and of themselves are beautiful when you put them on the eyes. So I have pretty much relegated this palette to be used with other palettes that have better matte purples, and these 3, they don't really get used. They just don't. I mean, there's a chance that I would use one of them for a look, but why bother if it's not a great shadow? I have tons of other really great shadows. I could use a great shadow and then grab one of these great shimmers or beautiful lighter tones to buff something out and just ignore that trio. So yeah, that trio is, just forget about it, and I enjoy the other assets that the palette can offer. Now let's talk about the Hummingbird palette from Udenzai, collaborating with the Fancy Face. Now this palette is so pretty. This is so pretty. And you can't get it anymore. It's limited edition and discontinued. If you find it on a secondhand site, it's crazy expensive, but it is a really pretty palette. I tend to reach for this palette when I want more of a special shimmer. I don't have shimmers from the brands that are like trending right now, like Gourmand Girls and Unearthly Cosmetics and Adept Cosmetics, and so many of these brands that have really special shades. For me, these are my special shades. They're not really duochromes, but they are very, very beautiful. And I usually remember this palette and reach for it when I want something a little bit extra. So within this palette, the mattes actually don't get that much use. If I'm trying to do a look only from this palette, then these two mattes get used, or these two. I always use this one. I might do these two together, but not really. And then this blue right here, it's called Blue Fields. It's absolutely stunning. It's an electric blue shimmer. I would like to use it, but because, again, with the dark blue or dark purples, I just don't usually incorporate them into my looks. I'm looking at it now and I'm going, oh, I should definitely do a look that uses this shimmer because it's so pretty. At this point, I would say that this shimmer and this shimmer, the dark blue and the dark purple, as gorgeous as they are, don't really get used or are very rarely used right now within my collection. But oh, they're so pretty. So pretty. I have two palettes here from BH Cosmetics that I'm going to talk about in one. They are from the Birthstone series. Now, the quality of the Birthstone palettes was very high. They were all super good. It was like BH Cosmetics' good formula. However, every single Birthstone palette included a glitter. All 12 of them had a glitter. Now, the glitter works with the theme, but it's such bad quality glitter. It is so bad. I don't use glitter on my eyes anyway. I'm a little bit nervous about the safety of having glitter on your eyes. However, I do know that there are companies which provide pretty high quality glitter to be used in the eye area. And this is not one of them. This is like craft glitter. You could go to AC Moore or Michaels or Hobby Lobby and get a glitter, which would be even better quality than this, like something that's more finely milled. This is like kindergarten, Valentine's Day craft glitter. It is so bad. It's not even suspended in something that's really workable. It's just like chunky and almost loose. It's really bad. And both of them, sorry, I'm sorry, total random little rabbit trail. Have you ever seen the viral video of a Scottish grandmother reading the story, The Wonky Donkey? I'm sorry, this is so random, but the way I just said really bad, it's hilarious because she's reading the story. It's this goofy children's book. She's reading it to her baby grandchild, and she's reading it with this heavy Scottish accent. I love it. And there's one page in the book where it says that the wonky donkey smells really, really bad. And she says it with this, she's like, really, really bad. And it's just hilarious. And something about the way I said really bad made me think of that. You have to look it up. You have to find, just Google Scottish grandma wonky donkey, and you'll find it's hilarious. Anyway, all of the BH Birthstone palettes had a glitter. It matched the color theme, but it was just terrible quality. So within any of these palettes, which I own, which at this point is just these last two, all of them, I completely ignored the glitter. I pretended that it wasn't even there. It's dead to me. It was awful. It's basically a 6 shadow palette, not 7. And finally, I do want to talk about the Wilderness palette from Beauty Bay. This is a great palette. I think I recently put this as like a top 10. If I could only keep 10 palettes, this would be one of them. I think it's a great palette. I love the color story. I think it's interesting and unique. I love the variety of tones, the variety of warmth versus cold, light, medium, dark. It's a great palette. But there's one shade that has been a consistent disappointment to me, and it's this one right here called Snow. I so wish that this were a bright white. I mean, it's called Snow. It should be a bright white matte, right? Or a bright white shimmer, but matte would be better. But no, it's not. It's sort of an ivory white tone with kind of a weird gray undertone. it's just not a great shade. I think it kind of lets the side down a little bit, and so much of me wants a bright white inner corner, but I can't use this shade because it's not very pigmented. It's not super buildable. You put it on the eye and it doesn't show up that well. It's just not a great shade. It's very disappointing. Aside from that, I love the palette, but this is definitely the shade within this palette that gets basically no use. I can't even put it down underneath of something and then lay a new color on top to lighten that color because it just doesn't have any pigment. It's disappointing. It's disappointing. And even within this palette, you might think this shade doesn't get any use, but this one does, this ocean tone over here, because it is a darker blue shimmer, but it's not super dark and it has a lot of silver in it. So it doesn't hit my criteria of to be avoided because of the undertones. It's a good shimmer. Anyway, within Wilderness, definitely Snow. So there you go. That's the first of my 2 videos talking about shadows that don't get used or get very little use. Thank you very much for hanging out with me today. I hope you liked the video. Auntie D. Ramy, thank you for suggesting this. I thought it was a great idea when you suggested it. I was like, oh yeah, you know, I've never seen a video on that theme. So woohoo, go Auntie Ramy. Thank you again for being with me and for clicking on my channel. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to like and subscribe if you want to see lots more content. And until I see you in my next video, I hope that you have a great day. Bye.